Today's case is an example of what happens when someone believes they're smarter than an entire police force, and it details a disturbing story of a murder and betrayal. That being said, as always, viewer discretion is advised. This is Stephen McCullough and Natalie McNally, a couple that began a romantic relationship in August of 2022, and by December of that same year, Natalie discovered that she was 15 weeks pregnant, with Stephen being the presumed father of the unborn child. They lived in a small village named Silverwood Green, which is in Lurgan, located in Northern Ireland. This is the ultimate locale for what is referred to as natural wonders because of its abundance of lakes, mountains, and coastal vistas. Its capital is the city of Belfast, which you might know as the place where the historic ship, the Titanic, was built. Stephen McCullough, who at the time was an up-and-coming streamer with over 30,000 followers, was looking to gain popularity for his channel, and possibly a bit of supplemental income by streaming himself playing different video games. Stephen's YouTube channel, VoteSaxon07, was started back in April of 2010 and is still up and running today with over 35,000 followers and a host of content views spanning across various videos. It always amazes me looking at these sort of cases in hindsight when there is a public persona attached to the case, because it makes you look at their content and ponder to yourself just how long that person could have been planning something sinister. Stephen's channel in the beginning largely focused on reviewing toys and collectibles. He eventually began branching off into reviews of movies and TV shows in the UK, but no one had any idea that beneath his seemingly casual presence in social media was a jealous and vengeful monster. Sunday, December 18th, 2022. Natalie spent the day and most of the evening at her parents' home in Lurgan watching the World Cup. After leaving, CCTV captured her traveling and arriving back home around 7 p.m. Meanwhile, Stephen began a live stream video recording on YouTube around the same time. For all intents and purposes, that's what Natalie believed Stephen was doing while she was now at home, according to text messages between the two. Stephen had reportedly posted on his Twitter account around 4 p.m. earlier that evening that he would begin streaming that night and titled it Violent Night Christmas Gaming Stream, telling his followers that he would begin around 6 p.m. The last message to Natalie from Stephen was at 5:57 p.m. saying, "Right, I'm off to stream the night away. Wish me luck." At 7:09 p.m., CCTV captures a man walking towards a bus stop at Kingsway in Dunmurry. The bus stop is 2 miles from McCullough's home. That man boards the bus and travels to Lurgan with a large hood covering the upper part of his face and a scarf covering the lower. When the man gets on the bus, he pays with cash, but when he does, he drops coins onto the floor of the bus and bends over to try and pick them up, but due to the thick gloves he's wearing, he can't quite grab the coins. So he removes the thick pair of black gloves, and when he does, an additional latex pair of gloves is revealed underneath that are a yellow-orange color. CCTV is able to capture this same individual at Silverwood Green, where Natalie lived with her pet dog and 2 cats. She also owned a large German Shepherd dog, but curiously, neighbors heard no barking noises that night. Around 9 p.m., 2 neighbors reported hearing a woman scream. And at 9:31 p.m., cameras capture who they believe to be the same male with a similar stature and walk as the man from the bus, carrying a dark backpack and having changed his clothes. The man then gets into a taxi where he tells the driver he needs to visit Lisburn, where his mother stays because she's sick. But authorities say that instead of going to Lisburn, the man has the driver take him a few blocks away from his home address, claiming that he didn't have enough money to cover the trip to Lisburn. Once there, he takes 2 bags from the taxi and departs through the tall trees that leads to Stephen McCullough's home. The recorded time from the taxi driver is 11:13 p.m. Soon after, Stephen's phone, after hours of inactivity, suddenly becomes active again. Stephen later claims the inactivity was because he was drinking that night and fell asleep after his live stream. Stephen's story would begin falling apart once CCTV footage from the bus and cameras near Natalie's home were made available. Authorities believe the man on camera is in fact Stephen McCullough. The taxi driver also later identifies Stephen in a lineup of individuals that he says was the man he transported. Natalie's family would also come forth and tell authorities that Stephen was allowed several minutes alone with Natalie's body after he arrived on the scene and played the part of the grieving boyfriend. In the following days and weeks after Natalie's death in secret, Stephen used his time around her family to plant his cell phone beneath furniture at their home in order to voice record their interactions and conversations to see whether or not they suspected him as their daughter's killer. Stephen would ultimately be arrested and detained when his computer and electronics were confiscated, and it was discovered that his live stream had in fact been a recorded video, meaning the entire time Natalie believed he was at home live streaming on YouTube, he was actually planning her vicious assault and brutal murder. Natalie's body was found by Stephen McCullough, who claimed he discovered her body after he grew concerned about her well-being after she failed to respond to calls. He was arrested, and investigators began probing through his whereabouts and actions in the days leading up to Natalie's death, where they discovered several disturbing clues as to what he was actually doing. Investigators believe the plot to murder Natalie began sometime in November when Stephen began suspecting her of cheating. As the case went to trial, the court heard that 3 days before she died, Natalie had exchanged 33 WhatsApp messages with another male. And on December 17th, the night before she was killed, Natalie stayed over with Stephen, and an analysis of her phone showed that between 12:22 a.m. and 9:54 a.m. on the day of her death, her device was unlocked 9 separate times. Her WhatsApp was viewed as well as her Twitter account. On Stephen's phone, his browser history revealed that on November 12th, there was a search titled, "Is it more painful to be shot in the head or the heart?" Additional searches included, "Which is less painful, drowning or burning to death?" The prosecution says that it is unknown what Stephen would have done with any information found from his cell phone voice recordings had he learned that the family did suspect him as the killer. Forensic evidence and CCTV had pointed the finger right at Stephen McCullough as he stands accused of stabbing his pregnant girlfriend Natalie McNally to death in her home. He currently awaits sentencing behind bars. May the soul of Natalie McNally find rest and eternal peace.